all to Spirit Women New Mexico's September 2015 meeting. So glad you are all here. My name is Genevieve Mitchell. I'm a partner with Goddess Inc. And we're so pleased that we have you here today with us, as well as our guest speaker for the day. And I would like to introduce our guest speaker. Her name is Melanie Richardson. She is an acupuncturist, and I've been to her, and I can highly recommend her. So, Melanie Richardson is a doctor of Oriental medicine. She's been a healer in the energetic arts since about 2002, so she's been doing this a while. She was a scientist in her early career and found that she wanted to improve healthcare for the general public and felt drawn to traditional Oriental medicine. So she entered acupuncture school, and she bloomed, and she will tell you a little bit about that, I think. She entered a 3-year mentorship to train in her psycho-spiritual capacities. So I know that's where she's coming from. Dr. Richardson has also been an invited speaker at the Southwest Hypnosis Education Board, and is currently an associate professor and clinical director for the Southwest Acupuncture College in Santa Fe. So please help me welcome Dr. Melanie Richardson.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. I want to talk about something that I find anyone who begins a spiritual quest has to come up against at some point, and that's awareness. That awareness is not only the ability to see, but it becomes something very obvious about being what you feel. We are usually drawn to our spiritual journey. We're drawn into our life's work. We're drawn into our relationships because we feel. We feel something strongly. Yet, we can find that we maybe have another title we can put on that feeling, and that's empathy. Being empathetic, having empathy, being sympathetic, and having sympathy are all different versions of a continuum, but they are important differences. Sympathy is something that we hand out to someone. We recognize that there's a difficult situation. Being sympathetic is the act of doing it. It is recognizing and applying what we've known before and kind of projecting it onto someone else's experience. And we often see this in death and pain. I have sympathy for you. And in the act of reaching out to them, we're being sympathetic. Empathy and empathetic, though, they have different nuances that our culture doesn't really have a way to work with. Empathy is this deep knowingness, it's an awareness that is inherently in all humans. But the way we run our culture, the way we run our life, it's usually deadened down from our childhood, and then may come back up once you begin your psycho-spiritual journey. When you start asking questions, when you start challenging those walls and roles that are placed upon us. So, what do we do with this? How does this matter with empathetic, empathy, sympathy? Underneath it, we have to come to that core word of empath. And a lot of people struggle with identifying with this word, knowing what to do with it. When I was in acupuncture school, I was probably not even through my first 2 weeks of acupuncture school. I was sitting in class, and I remember it very clearly. I was in a point location class, I was listening to my teacher, and I felt myself very distracted for a moment because I was in some pain around my waist. And I thought, I shouldn't be wearing these tight jeans. These were too tight. And I looked down, and I was wearing a dress. They weren't my jeans. They were the jeans of the person sitting next to me, and I was feeling her experience so thoroughly in my body that I had an aha moment. And at first, it was just like, wow, look at all this information. Then I found myself being very emotionally friable because it wasn't just people's genes I was feeling their emotions, I was feeling their anger, their hardship, their lives, and their lineage of baggage that they were carrying with them. So I was kind of forced into my mentorship. It wasn't something that I was like, I want to mentor. It was like, I was feeling like I was crawling into school each day on my knees trying to deal with all of this energy. And to top it off, in acupuncture school, you're playing with chi. You know, you're playing with life force that moves between skin and muscle. And that has its own texture, it has its own flavor, it has its own series of emotions. So just as soon as we started touching each other, it began a journey that I wasn't going to get out of. So I sought a mentor. She was in acupuncture school as well, but she had been a teacher for a long time, and she had specialized in helping people deal with their awarenesses. And she was the first person who ever told me, you have to treat your empathy like a gift. You can treat it like a curse, but if you do, you become a victim to it. And then everything you're aware of controls your life and becomes your experience. And you're no longer being you. You're no longer having your life. You're stuck. And over the course of time of working with her, over the time of going through acupuncture school, starting my own business, treating people, and treating lots of diseases, treating whole families that had addiction issues and extreme mental and emotional issues, treating lots of cancer patients, treating people who are very suicidal, treating fibromyalgia, lots of pain. And one of the things, you know, you'll often see with people with a pain, chronic pain issue, chronic fatigue issue, is we know they're typically empaths that don't know how to get out from underneath all of that energy that's piling on top of them. So mine's not the typical acupuncture business. I do look at your tongue and pulse, and quite frankly, after I get to know you and understand your resonance, I don't look at those as much because I just start reading your energy instead. Once you cultivate your empathy, you can use it for great beauty. But it still means that you have to get to the point that it's not kicking in the head. What I've discovered over time is that empathy versus empathetic is this kind of continuum of recognizing something. You know, when someone has a hard experience, they have pain, we can be empathetic to their situation. And it's a projection. I remember when I've had a headache, so I can, you know, hold a space for you because you're having a headache. Versus moving into that empathic mode where, yeah, your headache's right here, and it's kind of behind your eye, and it's coming out of your neck, and what I really need to do is kind of face this rhythm. It takes you through a different journey. Interesting fact about acupuncturists in China. Same interesting fact about any of the practitioners, acupuncture MDs. You typically die of your specialty. Because you constantly touch that energy, you then process and become that energy, and it creates a disease pathway. So, you know, you may find out if you're doing like Reiki, some teachers would teach you how to have a Reiki shield so that you're putting out and you're aware but you're not suctioning it through. Same thing happens in acupuncture school. You learn how to manipulate and be aware of someone's energy without it becoming your energy. Same thing needs to happen with your empathy. You want to learn to take it as knowledge and recognize you're not going to lose any information by letting it be knowledge, letting it be out here. And it's not going to actually disconnect you from your ability to have heart with this person, because you're going to start with the basic foundation. We look at it through the idea of the chakras, coming from our root, our foundation. This is I. I have seen people apply it as I am, but that first seed is I, individuality. Am is putting a condition on it. It's putting that sense of beingness. So if we start with a foundation and work our way up, we see inherently in this what we're doing is we're creating a sense of self-respect, self-space, and then we can reach out and work and help others. We can become this something more. So I like to look at it as I for your root, and am as your, you know, your next sacral chakra, and then able when I move into the solar plexus, worthy when I move into heart, being able to speak or translate, transmit, being in the throat, know when I come up into my third eye and more as crown. This idea that I'm evolving and becoming a sense, and now I'm elongating my connection. And I'm strong, I'm rooted, I have all the foundation underneath. So many people in our society have experiences that kind of kick them up empathy. They have trauma, they have childhood issues. They come in as just very lovely, bright lights, light hearts, expanded hearts. And when life hits them, they have reactions. Some people, their empathy goes off the charts. That's how they survive. They start trying to figure out, intuit everything, and try to adjust what they're doing or being. Sometimes they just get disgusted at seeing all the pain. They make a choice. I'm a heart person. I want to be heart, so I'm going to just rip open this chakra, and I'm going to become a heart. Well, if you're an empath, that's a very natural place to start, but it's a dangerous place to start, because now what do you have? You have no foundation. You have someone else's experiences in there with you, and you need to find a way to negotiate what you want to do and be in this world. And still remember that you are being, and you have to bring yourself back to center. So the best way to do this is through the same idea of coming up with this sense of I. So how does this relate to compassion and boundaries? If I recognize that I have compassion for me, I have respect for me, I have the right to be, I have certain rights and needs and wants, and I nourish them to start with, I now am a different resonance. So let's look at the fact that we're all vibrating beings. With that's a resonance. It creates our light. It magnetizes to us. Basic, abundance exercises. You focus on what you want, and it comes to you. It's very important in your empathy you do the same thing, because you want to focus on being a gift to you, so you may use the gift if you choose to for another. So you're resetting your resonance, you're changing your idea, and you're creating this foundation of taking care of self so that you can be, you can come to your more, and then negotiate from the back. So in empathy and being an empath, what this means is tweaking some ideas. Most people look at boundaries as a line in the sand. It's a no. I like this, I don't like this, this makes me comfortable, I can't tolerate this. But you notice what happens when you draw that line is people walk straight up to that line, toe on it, creeping over, and they're pushing at you. So when you do, a lot of your psychological work, you start learning that, well, my boundary's actually further back. This is my last ditch effort to get you off me. And you start telling people, well, don't call me after 11 moves to don't call me after 9 to really my problem is I'm not your therapist, I love you, and when you're in this deep need, in this trauma, I'm not the one who can process it. So you start learning about yourself, you start learning those comforts. But this is being the opposite of resonating to what you want to be, right? Because you're going through all the no's. So you're cutting little chunks out of your universe by going no, 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 no. But when we manifest, we want to yes, we want to come towards something. So we often find ourselves in that quandary of how do I deal with my heart and how do I go forward? This is where our compassion comes from, is I'm looking for things to yes. Yes to myself, yes to my love, yes to my beingness, yes to my wisdom. And now I've just changed my vibration rate. So instead of having a line in the sand that's kind of cutting things out, I'm emanating. And my emanating is a boundary. We can look at it that way because now I've just changed the universe to serve me. And I can still walk in the dark paths of other people and change their light, give them something, contribute to them, help them move along. I can also recognize that sometimes when they walk through those paths, they're not mine to touch. Now, instead of having to fix it because it's inside with me and it's making me feel crazy and I gotta get out of my skin, I can respect that that's exactly what I need to be right now. I'm a little judgmental if I'm reaching over trying to fix it sometimes, because it's not their timing. So if I'm like, oh no, let me just change this. We don't want to do that because now we're off of our task. If you're walking into the room And your purpose of walking into that room is like coming here today. We're going to share energy, we're going to share ideas, and you're walking and feeling someone else's energy. Now, all you're recognizing that person in the other room. You heard a cough, you saw them walking by there in pain. You're feeling great sadness. And you're drawn off your center to go take care of it. You're not here to do what you're here to do. And it's the same thing, our spiritual path coming into our lives. We are here for a reason. And having these awarenesses are a gift. But we have to learn to start emanating and radiating, so we're creating the life and we're creating the safety and the space. But what do you do if you had a bad day? You have a cold, you're really tired, you just got bad news. Well, it's hard to go straight to the emanating. So we have some tools that we can use to kind of clear everything out and reset and move us forward. Small, simple little tools. Ever had jasmine green tea? It's pretty good stuff, right? Jasmine helps you process emotions. If you're overwhelmed by your own emotions or someone else's emotions, drink some jasmine green tea. Use some jasmine essential oil, take some jasmine flowers, and bathe with them. And they will actually help the energetic level of your body move through these emotions at a quick rate so they're not getting stuck. Because illness is stuck energy. And that includes any form, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. It's stuck. It's stagnant. Ironic that we all hate change, because really health is always about keeping things moving. We gotta go forward. Frankincense. She asked, what about frankincense? Frankincense actually creates a core. And what you do with that is when you utilize it, it's an admission that you have this tether between two worlds. And so it links you your inside and your outside. So for someone who has a hard time to kind of stand in both worlds, or they don't know which world they're in, frankincense pulls you back in very nicely. And it allows you to still keep your vision. Another good trick is ginger. Ginger actually cleans your aura, so it's a great way to get everyone else's stuff off. You can do it as a ginger bath, ginger tea as well. Yeah, so any formulation, including essential oils. What you'll find between freshly grated versus dry is fresh is easier on your skin versus dry. Dry is very heating. But when you use it in a tea, they're pretty equivalent. Dry ginger is a little more warming on the stomach, so if you tend towards a little acid, you don't want to use dry ginger in your tea. You want to actually use fresh. Both of them will eventually make you sweat. What it does is it goes in and brings heat, and then it blooms you to the outside, which is how it's cleaning your aura, because it's pushing everything back inside. Some other tools that you can use are just getting into the habit of visualizing seeing yourself purified. So you can do it with washing your hands, you can do it with seeing yourself in a bath of light. You can see yourself beaming light from the core and pushing everything away. If you're in an empathic breakdown moment, having been there, I know that one well. Most of us, what happens is we're kind of like a sponge in those moments. We forgot, we didn't do our tools, we weren't centered, we didn't vibrate to our day, we didn't have it set up. So things have been seeping into the sponge. And then when it touches something that's a little too deep or tender, we lock down. So now it's locked halfway in with us. And that's why it can be very good to do imagery where it comes from the inside and pushes to the outside. But we've got to relax first. Some of my worst breakdown moments, I didn't want to let go because I was more afraid of it penetrating further. But as soon as you have that intent that it's going to go away, it's not going to get in. You're just going to relax, and you're going to see that light pushing it out. And then don't try to figure out if it's still there. Because if you're strong enough to feel all this stuff, you're also strong enough to magnetize all this stuff, and you're going to just suck it right back in if you keep looking. Is it there? Is it there? Yes. If you ask, yes. If you just assume that you've done the right thing, then no, it's not. I've known people to respond better to tones, to sounds, to music. It actually is a great way to clear out the heart chakra. And what happens is that you do need to have a little higher volume. It doesn't matter what music that you like. But when you turn it up a little bit, you'll notice you can kind of feel it in your chest. And that helps shake it out of your heart chakra, allows your heart to start beating. You may actually feel some palpitations a little bit. But then it floats off. It's that same concept. I love alchemy. I love the fact that you can transform and you can use correlations to bring things together. And one day when I was having yet another empathic breakdown, even when you really know what you're doing, you still have moments where you're like, oh, I didn't do what I needed to do. But I've gotten to learn some new tools with that. And as within, so without, as above, so below, what this does is this answer of psychological correlation. So you can do something as simple when you feel like you can't keep other people's energies off of you. That's a psychic immune system. So boost your physical immune system. Take some echinacea with vitamin C and invoke that you're going to make your physical immune system strong. And with that, as above, so below, as within, so without, you've now invoked your psychological immune system, your spiritual immune system. And you've utilized a tool to bring correlations and essentially set your vibration with the universe so that everything can be more comfortable and you can come back to what you're here to do. Which truthfully, first of all, is to have your experience, gather your stories, and along the way, when you notice the synchronicity, give your gift. But not self-sacrifice, not come in and just be vulnerable and walk through and carry everything for everyone else. We have to, as we notice these gifts about ourselves, these capabilities, we have to come back to our center and honor that this gives us a hand up, but it's not supposed to ever be something that takes us in. So, any questions? You good? Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
Everybody?
Sorry.